Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
All day, every day.
Good morning, my neighbors!
That's why these two guys here, these are the men I want as my friends. They're the new blood.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This episode of the Detroit Sports Podcast drops on Thanksgiving 2014, episode 68 of the DocNJock Sports Program. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me is the enforcer of his rec hockey league, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? Happy Thanksgiving, bro.
Happy Thanksgiving, man. Can we get the turducken back in this business? I would love to see a turducken. I want a six-legged bird that probably tastes like shit but looks awesome. Can we get that?
It's going to be a fun Thanksgiving. I hope everyone enjoys their time with their family. And if you get a minute, thank you for downloading another episode of our podcast. We got a lot to get to. We are going to hit on the Lions, their loss versus New England. They went up to the mountain. They tried to play with the big boys, and they got spanked. Not all too surprising. Everyone kind of expected that they would lose, but how they lost is something that is very concerning and something that DocNJock will get to. We're going to play a round of The Doctor is in Session. Adam has some great questions lined up, and he's just waiting for the doc to deliver. And as always, on our podcast, we love chatting sports with those who are just as passionate as we are, and hopefully we get a chance to connect with some friends of the podcast from the Detroit Sports Nation, and I think for sure we're going to be talking to the host of On the Dean's List podcast, and we hope to get a chance to talk some sports. He's got a lot of great sports knowledge, and we always love chatting with Dean. He's great. He's very supportive of our podcast, and he had DocNJock on his podcast. And stay tuned. We will have a chance to speak with Dean and hopefully a writer from the Detroit Sports Nation. All right, cuz the Lions had a chance to make a statement, had a chance to prove to everybody that they're not a fluke, that they are actually worthy of being the number one defense. They're not the same old Lions. They go up to New England and lay an egg.
What the hell is that about?
Unfortunately, they got out to an early lead. They had a great first drive. And then from there, basically, the offense stalled. Cuz, can you honestly believe in this NFL, 2 straight NFL games, and the Lions don't score a touchdown? So it's very disappointing. The game was really tough to watch. New England brought in a guy who walked off his team in LeGarrette Blount. He rolls up in there, 2 touchdowns. The Lions are driving. They're making plays. They get to the red zone, and then the play calling just fails again. 3 straight passing plays in the red zone, and then on 4th down, you don't go for it? What does that say to the offense? What does that say about their belief in this team? Do you honestly think that did Caldwell and the staff think that the Lions were going to put up a whole bunch of numbers in this game? It wasn't going to happen. You needed to roll the dice there. And again, the offense struggled and they got rolled. It was interesting that you thought that the Lions would keep this within 7. It didn't happen. Once the second half began, New England went right down the field, and if it wasn't for a turnover, they would have scored again. They literally did whatever they wanted. The New England Patriots are one of the top 2 teams right now in the entire NFL, and it just was disappointing that the Lions did not play their best game. Even if they had, I don't think they would have won. It just would have been for a better showing. I guess the best way to put it is, what more can you say about the gesture where you're losing the game and at the end, the Lions are taking a knee at the end of the game? It spoke for itself. I have never, ever seen a team that is losing a game on offense just say, you know what, let's just take a knee for the last play of the game. And especially a team that hasn't scored a touchdown. Fling it up there. Do something. Show some life. Right now, the Lions offense is taking the personality of Caldwell. Boring, stale, predictable, and that's the reason why you've lost 2 straight.
Let's first start with this. I didn't think the Lions were going to go to New England, and I didn't think they were going to give up almost 440 yards of offense.
What the hell's going on out here?
I thought that defense would keep this game close. I thought the defense would keep the Lions in it, at least to some extent. Maybe sit there and put a pick 6 up on the board. Maybe do something, force a fumble, and somehow end up in the end zone. That being said, I didn't think the offense was going to play as putrid as they played. It's now going on, almost 8 quarters of football where we haven't seen the end zone? It's like it's a mythical land that everybody else has been to but the Detroit Lions. They can't seem to find the end zone even with a roadmap and all arrows pointing to where they need to go. That being said, something's got to change here. I mean, we've got a short turnaround. We've got Chicago coming in for the Thanksgiving Day game. Something's got to change. Something has to. This offense has to find its way, and they have to find its way this week right now. They can't continue to sit there and prolong this losing streak. If they keep losing this way, at what point does the same old Lions mentality start to sink into these players' heads? And that right there is probably the most dangerous thing that can derail a really good season, is that same old back-asswards way of thinking that, hey, we're the Lions, we're okay, we make a little bit of noise, but you know what? We just kind of always lose down the stretch. You can't have that happen. We knew these 2 games were going to be tough. We knew these 2 games were going to be difficult. I don't think either one of us really expected them to win. I think we thought maybe they'd keep it a lot closer than what happened in New England. I really feel like that Arizona game, that was a winnable game that they should not have lost. That game and the Buffalo game are the 2 games that I'm looking at this season, and those should be W's. All right, woulda, shoulda, its and buts of candy and nuts. You know what I'm saying? It's what it is, all right? You are what your record says you are. New England just housed the Detroit Lions. They put it to them. Detroit has to turn around now, and they have to play Chicago, and they've got to take it to Chicago to end this losing streak and to get right back on the winning track. At this point, Terry Bradshaw's come out and said that they're frauds, basically. He came out and he was like, yeah, they showed what they are. Basically calling them frauds and saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. How do you sit there and start the season so well, and then you don't make the playoffs? They've done it time and time before. I don't think this Lions team is the same as those past Lions teams. I think they will make the playoffs, and I think Terry Bradshaw is going to have to eat his words, but it has to start this week, and these Lions have to sit there and take it to Chicago.
And what was disappointing when we're watching is that plays on offense were there. Corey Fuller gets a pass. Ball goes right through his hands. It looked like he had no awareness or he lost the ball in the lights. Joseph Fourier, all season long, has been on the shelf, hasn't played consistent, and he gets back in the lineup. Matthew Stafford throws him a pass, and he drops it. That can't happen. The offense has to help Matthew Stafford out because basically they're hanging him out to dry. And then the big mistake that Matthew Stafford made on that 4th down play and 10, you slide early. Why? Why did that play have to happen? Why did Matthew Stafford have to look like a fool on 4th and 10? Why did it have to happen to us? Matthew Stafford took a chance and slid to try to give himself up to avoid injury. But you have to get the 1st down. It's imperative. You didn't do it, and it was a big mistake. And then, to cap everything off, Eric Ebron had another dismal performance. And what always seems to happen is, once we pinpoint a player on the Lions that isn't well, we get to see another player shine that was taken 2 picks after him. How are we supposed to feel when we watch Eric Ebron's performance, juxtapose that with Odell Beckham Jr. catching the ball with 3 fingers? The catch people are raving about as being one of the catches that they have never seen before. Twitter blew up. Oh my gosh. What did Odell Beckham Jr. just do? Caught the ball with 3 damn fingers. And Ebron looks like he doesn't even know what play to run or what route to run. Why? Why is that something we have to be subjected to? Everyone's basically on our Twitter, at Detroit Podcast, was like, it's too early to call him a bust. It's too early.
He's a bust.
Okay, fine.
I'll tell you right now, he's a bust.
If you don't want to call him a bust, right now, at the 10th pick, you have not had any production whatsoever.
He's a bust.
And your offense is struggling. How disturbing is that your offense is struggling and the piece that you brought in to be a juggernaut is not showing really any signs that he's going to be anything.
He was 5 yards behind the deepest defender. The ball hit him right between his numbers, hit him right in the chest, and he dropped the ball. Other plays, he's not even turning around and looking at the ball. Let's talk about these wide receivers while we're at it. All right, it's hard to win games when you're constantly at 3rd and 6. All right, that's a lot of yardage to make up in the National Football League. It's hard to win games when you're at 3rd and 6. You got Eric Ebron, who gets behind the defense, looks up, ball hits him basically in the face and in the hands, and he drops it. You've already said that they've dropped numerous balls in the end zone. Let's talk about Calvin. This is where a lot of my ire lies. Let's talk about Calvin. Calvin's supposed to be the greatest wide receiver in the game right now, right? He's supposed to be almost transcendent. There's a lot of comparisons to him and Jerry Rice. You know what I've never seen Jerry Rice do? I've never seen Jerry Rice drop a touchdown. Never seen Jerry Rice do that. For as many spectacular plays as Calvin Johnson makes, there's always 3 or 4 pedestrian plays that should be gimmies that he drops. For him being a stud wide receiver, supposed to be number 1 in the NFL, the best wide receiver that we've seen in almost a generation. For him supposedly being that guy, he drops a lot of balls. He drops a whole hell of a lot of balls. If I was the Lions, I wouldn't be upset if he was put on the trade block next year. Try to move him. He's on the downside of his career. And what makes it even worse and what stings the most is you sat there and you drafted Eric Ebron when you could have had Odell Beckham Jr. And then you could have had your heir apparent to Calvin. You could have moved Calvin out of here. Saved your money. Saved some money on the salary cap. And then you'd have your stud wide receiver to pair with Golden Tate. Because right now, Golden Tate is your best wide receiver on this team. Golden Tate is your number 1 guy. You can give the ball to Golden Tate and you can count on him getting you some yards. I don't care if it's basically a play behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to get you 7 to 10 yards at a clip. That's what he does. And Calvin Johnson can't even catch a damn ball on a curl route. These wide receivers are killing this team. It's not even on Matt Stafford at this point. Yes, he makes questionable decisions, but it's on these wide receivers. This receiving core and this offensive scheme is horrible. This offensive line, garbage. Absolute garbage.
Do you think that Calvin Johnson is on the downside of his career?
Yes.
I mean, he hasn't looked the same since last year. And
Dude, he hasn't looked the same in almost 2 years. He's constantly injury prone. He can't catch the football. He drops them all. Dude, he has all kinds of drops. All kinds of drops. I think he's been targeted 22 times in the last 2 games. He has 8 receptions. Dude, you're not even bringing in 50% of what gets thrown to you. And how many of those go off your hands? If it hits your hands, you're supposed to catch it. On top of it, you drop balls in the end zone. You're bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else. What are you doing?
Yeah, right now, it is apparent Joe Lombardi is at his wit's end with this offense. He comes out last week, cuz, and tells us that, hey, we're paring down the offense and we have to take out, we're simplifying this offense. You are simplifying this offense? Come on, I've never heard an offensive coordinator come out and tell the fans that you believe that your offensive unit can't handle the plays that are being called for them. Most of the time, in that situation, they would just run fewer plays in practice. I don't think the players are aware of exactly the detail. You just come out with the game plan and try to run it. But to come out and say that shows that the offensive coaching staff is really hindering this team. I think that Matthew Stafford, again, because of a coaching change and because of a new offensive scheme and things like that, has been stunted. His growth has been stunted. And it's not fair. Why? Why at this point in time in the Lions organization did you bring in a first-year coordinator? Why? It's imperative. Everyone said this team is full of talent on offense, yet you bring in a guy who, by all accounts, is the heir apparent. He's a grandson of Vince Lombardi, should have the answers, came from a system where they put up numbers, they were proficient, and you come in here and this is what's going on with the offense? It's embarrassing, and it's really time for the Lions to step up. Going forward, they need to be more efficient, they need to be more productive. And right now, everyone's saying, "Oh, we got 3 games at home versus Chicago, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota." Everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to win 3 straight." I'm not confident. Right now, as we speak on Thanksgiving, I'm hoping that the Lions play a good game versus Chicago. They're not gimmies. Last year, the Lions swept Chicago, so they're going to come in hungry and trying to salvage their season. They're not going to just roll over. And then you got to go on the road versus Chicago and Green Bay. Because right now, I'm a little bit concerned that in this NFL, there have been teams that have won 9 and 10 games that didn't make the playoffs. Last year, Arizona, 10-6, does not make the playoffs. The Lions have to return to playing good offensive football. Otherwise, you're going to finish the season outside of the playoffs looking in.
It all starts this week. It all starts with Chicago. There's no reason you should lose to Chicago. There's no reason whatsoever. They've got Jay Cutler, for God's sake. That guy is a consummate turnover. He's good for at least 1, maybe 2 interceptions plus a fumble every game. Believe me, I know. He's killing my fantasy team right now. He put up 10 points in fantasy in a standard league last week, and I lost to your wife. It's horrible. So there's no reason that they should lose this game. That defense that they run over in Chicago, it's okay. It's not great. All right, that offense is ready to hang up Jay Cutler. They're ready to turn on him. All that has to get done is the defense has to get to Jay Cutler, pop him in his face. You hit Jay Cutler. This is how I really believe this, and I truly feel this way. If you can get to Jay Cutler and you can hit Jay Cutler, all you got to do is just pop him 1 or 2 times. Watch how he plays after that. He almost plays scared. He's ready to throw the ball away quickly. He sees the pocket collapsing. He basically tucks the ball and he just goes to the ground. He's a totally different guy once you hit him once or twice. Totally different guy. So you just have to get home and get to him early. You get to him early, he's going to start throwing the ball up, going to force some turnovers, and we've seen what happens when this defense turns the ball over. If this defense can help us win the turnover battle, this team will win because God knows that this offense isn't doing a damn thing. So we just have to turn the ball over on the defensive end, get the ball into the offense's hands, and hopefully they can put some points on. If not, please let the defense put some points up. But we just got to get to Jay Cutler and pop him in the face.
Because like we've said in previous podcasts, teams that are beating the Lions are putting it out there on how to beat them. You play well on offense, you have a run game, a solid run game, screen passes from the backfield, you get chunk yards, and the Lions are playing poorly on defense to start games. And so New England and Arizona in back-to-back weeks were able to exploit the Lions' defense. Supposedly the number 1 ranked defense, they played well versus Arizona, only giving up 14. But versus New England, Tom Brady basically could have cooked breakfast, lunch, dinner, ran around, checked the stands, and still threw passes. They did not get to Tom Brady. They got to pressure the quarterback. They have to get back to that. And
it's the only way this team will win.
We got to be a little bit worried now in terms of the offense, in terms of the damage to the offensive line. Early in the game, Reef goes down, and I'm like, oh no, that is not good news. Once Riley Reef went down, it was all downhill. Who the hell is Lucas? And he looked like he was out of sorts. He had no idea what was going on. The line play was terrible.
The turnstile that they plugged in as a substitution? Is that what you're talking about?
You can't win in the NFL if your offensive line unit doesn't play well. And Stafford got crunched again. It looked like there were some plays he had where he was able to, stay in the pocket and make the throws. But once the pocket broke down, that was it. That he was forced to throw, and the receivers were covered. I mean, you got to give New England credit. They had a defensive scheme that was perfect. Revis bounced from Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate, and the defense was able to make the key stops when needed. I mean, bend don't break to perfection. Coach Belichick was just able to outcoach Jim Caldwell. An interesting stat that came up was in the matchups that Jim Caldwell has coached against Bill Belichick, he has been down at least 17 points by the half in several of the games. So Bill Belichick owns Caldwell. He knows his schemes in and out. And so I just hope that going forward, the Lions can piece together in this short week a scheme that can be effective versus the Bears. Yes, I don't think the Bears are as talented as the 2 previous teams that we played, and we have a strong chance. And the Bears, their last 2 road games, have given up numerous points. Numerous. So I think that the Lions are going to have some momentum playing on Thanksgiving. The crowd's going to be raucous. I think that the Lions have a strong chance, but I am worried, though. I don't think that they're going to win 3 straight going forward. I think that they might slip up, maybe versus Minnesota, maybe versus Tampa. They're competing. So can we win close games again if we're not scoring? I'm not sure. And so if the Lions don't win the next 4 games, it's going to be very tough, and so that's why I'm worried. What do you think? Do you think that the Lions can turn this around and can take advantage of this next 3-game stand versus Chicago, Tampa, and Minnesota?
I'm going to do you one better. This is how confident I am in this defense and this team right now. I know that the city's burning down. I know that everything bad is happening because they sat there and they blew a game to Arizona. They blew a game to New England. They actually got rocked by New England. But I think they beat Chicago. I think they beat Tampa Bay. I think they beat Minnesota. I think they go on the road and they win in Soldier Field and they beat Chicago. I think they win the next 4 games, and they're going to need to because Green Bay, I don't see them losing. I really don't. I think it comes down to this game in late December at Green Bay for the division.
So you're seeing the Lions, who have historically struggled down the stretch, who are injury-plagued, who are struggling on offense, who are not as consistent on defense as they have been with the injuries to Tulloch, with the injuries to some of their corners. You see them winning 4 straight games. Wow, cuz that's a lot of faith for a team that really hasn't shown it. They collapsed last year. Don't forget, they collapsed last year. This is a similar bunch. You got guys who are just collecting paychecks, not getting on the field.
Here's the deal. I don't believe in Chicago. I don't believe in Jay Cutler. I don't even know if he'll be there as the quarterback the second time they play. I know he's going to be there this Thursday, but I don't know if he'll be there when they play come December 21st. I don't believe in Tampa Bay. I don't know what the hell they've got going on there. I know they got Lovie Smith, and he's a known Lions killer, but I don't believe in him. I don't believe in his team. I think they're all garbage. I think Mike Evans is the only thing that you got over there. And I definitely don't believe in Minnesota. Teddy Bridgewater, yeah, he's a nice story, but you remember what happened last time they played Teddy Bridgewater, right? They got a win there. So I think that the Lions can win these next 4 games. I think it's very possible. I think it's right out in front of the Lions.
It will behoove the Lions to really consider upgrading their talent at the running back position next offseason. They don't have a running back. They don't have a running game at all. And so it's making the offense one-dimensional. Okay, fine. This is a passing league. We all are aware of that. But you have to run the ball effectively. You have to get at least 3 to 4 yards each time around. And so you've invested money in Reggie Bush. Dude's not getting on the field. Dude is, I don't know what's going on. Ryan Broyles can't get on the field. You have guys that are piecemealed together in terms of the wide receivers, and Corey Fuller and Ross being your third option. It's not good enough.
I like both those guys.
It's not good. It's not good enough.
It's not good enough. You're absolutely right. I like both those guys, but you're right. It's absolutely not good enough. And unless you're going to design plays to utilize what they do, which is speed, you're not going to get what you want out of those guys. They don't have the best hands. They're just really quick guys, and they can make a play if they have the ball in their hands and they've got a little bit of space. But unless you're designing plays specifically for that, it's not going to happen.
Okay, I just think that we're going to be looking at some 14-10, 17-14 type games going forward, and it's going to be a grind.
It's fine as long as they're W's.
As long as
That's
they're W's.
all that matters in the NFL. It doesn't matter how you win, as long as it's a win.
Okay, it's Thanksgiving. We'll have some faith. I hope that this Turkey Day, once everybody's listening, hope everybody's eating good food. Hopefully, the Lions today put on a great performance for the fans, because if they lose, a 7-5 Lions team will bring out the biggest panic in the city that we've ever seen. We don't want to go into that Tampa game at 7-5. Oh my goodness. We're at the brink. It's very interesting how this is going to go. A lot of us are nervous, as we should be, based on the Lions' history. They have a history of collapse. People are noticing it. We're noticing it. We're feeling it. Let's just end this nonsense. Beat Chicago today. Get back on track. Get to the 8th win. And let's go forward. Let's have something positive to talk about when we do our next podcast. All right. Stay with us. After the break, we're going to play a round of The Doctor is in Session. Stay with us.
This is the Detroit Pistons dancing usher. My name is Shannon. And when I'm not at the Palace, I'm listening to Detroit Sports Podcast. Log in, listen in, have some fun with us. Love this group. Love the station.
You're the future of our business, and I know when you guys have a podcast like this, our future is in good hands.
Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for downloading another episode of our podcast. You can find our podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Podomatic, wherever you can find the Detroit Sports Podcast. Thank you for your downloads, and thank you for those that have been contributing to us monthly via PayPal. We greatly appreciate your support. If you're out there listening for the first time, you can support us by going to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Look around the website. It's got a lot of great information, a lot of great articles. You can click on the banner links. And if you're doing some online shopping, please feel free. Click through the Amazon banner and bookmark it. They kick us back a little something at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated here. All right, cuz, it's time for another round of The Doctor's in Session. I'm looking forward to the questions you got lined up for me. Let's see what you got.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
I'm going to start you off with a softball. Do you know who Lucy Pinder is? You should look her up. She's hot. But let's move on. Digging in my grab bag of collection of questions here. What do we have? All right. So the Boston Red Sox, they're busy spending a bunch of cash, signing the likes of Hanley Ramirez, Pavel Sandoval, and are pursuing the likes of John Lester. At this point in time, are they the top pick to represent the AL in the World Series next year?
Okay, as we speak on Thanksgiving, no. The trade as it stands makes Boston a little bit unbalanced. They have a surplus of outfielders, a surplus of DH-type hitters, and a lack of pitching. Right now, there's talk they're trying to get John Lester back, but their starting rotation outside of Clay Buchholz is not that great. Their starting pitching right now is really below average. Last season, they finished 71-91, last place in the AL East. And so that shook up the organization after a strong playoff run a couple years back. So the general manager, Ben Cherington, is looking to retool the team. and they've added pieces, and they're looking to be an offensive juggernaut. But right now, as we stand, they're unbalanced. They need to work on their pitching, which is what they were struggling with last season. But the Boston Red Sox have a lot of pieces as trade commodities that they can let go of for some starting pitching. Topped by Yoenis Cespedes. He's being shopped. It's very obvious he's being shopped all around the league, and they're looking to upgrade their starting pitching. Potentially, maybe going out and getting Doug Fister, potentially getting Jeff Shamarja from Oakland. They may be interested in, upgrading their pitching, and they have a lot of weapons to trade off to try and get that. But right now, as we stand, no, they're not the favorite. I like teams like Kansas City. I like the playoff teams from this year. I like what Baltimore has been doing in terms of consistent, strong play on defense and in their bullpen. Detroit is always in the market. You never know what they're going to do in terms of if they maybe sell off a piece and get some more pieces in here. I like Detroit, but in terms of where they stand right now, Boston needs a little bit more work, but they're loading up. They're not taking their bad season lightly, and they're retooling, so look out.
Yeah, definitely watch Boston next season. They're dumping a lot of money into that team. How big of a mistake was it for Ken Holland to leave Red Wings former right wing Andrej Nestrasil exposed to waivers? He was then picked up by Carolina. He's making an impact over there. His very first game, he scored a goal.
Yeah, right now, it was a tough thing to let go of Nestrasil. They thought they were taking a gamble by placing him on waivers. Maybe if he cleared waivers, he could go play in the minors and get more time. Because right now, he was a victim of the numbers game. Stephen Weiss needed a spot, and look what happened. He came into the lineup, has already been productive, and they're looking for him to be a guy, to be a known scorer that can put the puck in the net. Nestrasil, when he started for the Wings, just had 2 assists and was a -3 player in his 13 games with us. Right now, when you look at what's going on in Grand Rapids, there's a ton of forwards that can come in here that they're looking to develop that probably are a little bit better right now than the 23-year-old Nestrasil. You got Anthony Mantha, Timu Pulkkinen, Mitch Callahan, Kevin Porter, all looking to crack this lineup, all getting significant minutes in Grand Rapids. And all those guys right now are a little bit better than Nestrasil, in my opinion. He's got a lot of talent, though. He's massive, 6'3", 200 pounds. He needs to play. And the rules are right now in the NHL, if a guy is picked up off of waivers, the NHL club that picks him up has to keep him on the roster for 30 days. So he's going to get some games. He's going to be showcased. A guy like that needs to play regularly, and he's going to get that chance to shine and to develop, which may not have happened here in Detroit. So it's a good move for him. It's a tough loss in that, he was a guy that maybe we were counting on to be one of those guys that can be a second or third line forward. But right now you got a glutton of them behind, and you were able to take that risk. And unfortunately, Carolina claimed him. It's not going to be an all too significant loss. It's actually a win-win for both sides. And Carolina hopefully gets a player that produces, and the Wings can bring up one of their forwards, and Stephen Weiss can get some playing time and put the puck in the net.
I feel a little bit different about it. I think even if you kept him on your line and he develops into a possible third, maybe a fourth line scorer, with his size and his hands, I think he'd have been a great addition to the organization. I think you take a guy like Dan Cleary and you sit there and you send him down. Nobody's going to claim Dan Cleary, especially at his age and what his salary is. I think you have to get creative when you're working with the waiver wire and in the salary cap structure. I think you send Cleary down because nobody's going to pick that guy up. We don't even want that guy. He doesn't even play hardly. He's always a coach's decision that doesn't get to play. So I think you do that. And you keep Nestrasil up here and you let him try to develop a little bit more. I was kind of upset with Holland for losing him because I think good young talent is hard to come by. All right, moving on. Your Detroit Pistons. You love you some Pistons. I tried watching a Pistons game the other day. I really did.
Which game did you?
I tried really hard.
Which game did you tune into?
What was it? I think it was
Pistons Atlanta?
Yeah, I think it was the Atlanta game. I tried really hard, man. Oh, no, it was the Suns game. I tried watching it, and I gave it probably, man, all of like 10 minutes. I couldn't do it. They're so bad. What do you think is killing these Pistons, man? They're horrible to watch.
Man, the Pistons are struggling on a lot of fronts. I am pleasantly surprised. There are people that send us tweets and messages, say, hey, talk more about the Wings and Pistons. So I'm happy to hear that. People do want to break it down, and they want to understand why the Wings can't score in the shootout. But it's just one of those things that's just a weakness. But the Wings are playing good, and Unfortunately, the Pistons are not. They just haven't gelled under Stan Van Gundy, and it just looks like the leaks that have been the problems in the past continue now. Josh Smith is not consistent enough on offense, and an interesting stat that's kind of been noticed by a lot of people is that when he's on the floor, the Pistons are only shooting around 40%. When he's off the floor, they're shooting a little bit higher at 46%. Right now, in all the major offensive categories, the Pistons rank pretty close to the bottom in all of them. Their offense is porous. They can't shoot. When you watch a game and you see a play that's run and it goes to Andre Drummond and he's on the inside, he's close to the basket, he's shooting under 40%. That can't happen. A guy of that size that's around the basket within 2 or 3 feet is shooting less than 40%, the highest percentage shot. His offensive game right now is not where it needs to be. Still young. And right now, the Pistons are featuring one of the youngest starting lineups in the league. And with that, they are struggling. They cannot, they're in games. They are playing hard. But this is what happens when you have a young team. They can't finish games. They make key mistakes. The talent on this team is just not good enough to compete at the NBA level. Josh Smith is having minor problems with...
Dude, he's a team killer.
He's having problems with Van Gundy, who handled it. He did handle the little spat, benched him, and he's handled the problems. But right now, what I'm fearful of, and what I think a lot of people are fearful of, whereas in the past, players would revolt if Stan Van Gundy got on him, if he rode him. Right now, in this day and age, in the NBA, you'll just do what Brandon Jennings does. Shoot off on Twitter, make stupid comments like, we don't shoot in practice. What kind of nonsense is that? To come out on Twitter and to say that we don't shoot in practice? The Pistons right now are in danger of falling off the cliff and being irrelevant. And it's really sad. It's really sad right now that we're going to have to face another tough season. Can Stan Van Gundy use all his power, use all his knowledge and coaching to help this team turn around? I just don't see it. I don't see, look at a team like Milwaukee. They got a high draft pick. They've got a new head coach. They're playing around 500 ball. It's just better than what the Pistons are doing. The Pistons look like they're starting right at the bottom. They're trying to put together a makeshift offensive unit, and it's just not good enough. And Stan Van Gundy is going to have to look maybe at the trade deadline, start making some moves. Because otherwise, this season is going to be a total waste. I don't want to be like the 76ers every year, where we have to think about tanking, where we have to think about finishing near the bottom. In the East, where it's not that difficult to make the playoffs. But the Pistons have to do a lot better job of getting better shots. They got to do a lot better job of finishing in the fourth quarter, and they have to play better on defense. All around, they have to do everything better. Do they have the players to do it? It's going to be tough. Can Stan Van Gundy turn this thing around? Of course. He has a track record, but this could be the season he doesn't make the playoffs for the first time, and it'll be a rude awakening for Coach Van Gundy.
That's all I got for you, Doc. You did a great job as always. Appreciate your insight and your knowledge, brother.
Okay, one question before I'll ask you.
What's up?
On Thanksgiving. Who's the one athlete you're most thankful for is playing here in Detroit?
Oh, that's a good question. Who am I most thankful for? I would probably say Henrik Zetterberg, just because of the leadership that he provides. I really feel like he's a calming force. Basically, after Yzerman, you go to Lidstrom, and it was obvious he was the heir apparent because he's the one guy who, when everything's kind of hitting the fan, he can just kind of come in and he just has that calming presence. You don't ever feel like you're out of a game when he's out there. You've seen it time and time again, too, where he'll sit there and he'll win you a game with 0.2 seconds left on the clock. So probably him. If I had to pick one athlete, it'd probably be him.
And I'm going to go right to the top. I'm thankful we have Golden Tate because without him, this Lions offense could be one of the worst of all time.
He was my second.
Okay. So yeah, Golden Tate, we're thankful you're here, and we need you. And unfortunately, you might have to step up your game even more and take over the role once held by Calvin Johnson, the missing Calvin Johnson. All right, stay with us. After the break, we're going to have a chance to chat with the Dean of Sports, the host of the On the Dean's List podcast. After the break, stay with us.
I'm Megan McCormick out here in Fox Sports LA, and when I'm not sitting out in the sun, I'm listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
On the line, Dean Ladouceur has been kind enough to give us a few minutes talking Lions. He was kind enough to have DocNJock on his podcast earlier this year, and we always enjoy having friends of the podcast join us. Dean, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for reciprocating. I know that you guys are passionate sports fans as I am, and I'm looking forward here, football, college and both. Pro football is, in high swing. Hockey's and basketball just heating up. And, of course, there's always the hot stove league. So.
Yeah, lots to get to, and I enjoy having this chat. But let's first, before we get into some Lions chat, let's talk about this week is typically a week in the year where lots of Michigan fans are passionate and excited to play Ohio State, but with the recent struggles, it's just been kind of a lackluster week. You wouldn't even know around here that Michigan is even playing Ohio State. And at the end of the year, it's very likely that Brady Hoke will be shown the door. Your thoughts so far on this dismal season and maybe who could possibly replace him?
In 54 years, I have never seen Southeastern Michigan so blasé about an Ohio State-Michigan football game. It's as if they're paying, Zug Island Tech. There's no buzz in the air about it. I think Brady Hoke is dead man walking. We all kind of felt this. Dave Brandon, again, big splash, just like a marketing guy would. And it's time for Michigan fans to kind of catch their breath and say, okay, how are we going forward? Well, I think the future is historically, I think that Michigan has always gotten a great guy. Even Rich Rod, for all of his faults, he's got Arizona turned around. So I really believe there's actually a guy out there that Michigan needs to take a very serious look at. And let me kind of set up a premise here, if you will. You've heard of the term the cradle of coaches, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yes, and what university is referred to that as the cradle of coaches? Do you happen to recall? Little school down in Ohio called Miami of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio. I mean, they've produced people Paul Brown, Woody Hayes, Wee Bubank, best known with the Jets, Sed Gilman, Ara Parsegian, some guy named Glenn Schembeckler, Bill Mallory, Jim Tressel, Ron Zook, Bill Narduzzi, Randy Walker, John Harbaugh, Gary Moeller. I mean, the list goes on and on. They also produced a number of basketball coaches and football coaches. I mean, I was surprised to look that Mata coach there, Randy Ayers, and even baseball manager Walter Alston of the Dodgers came from the cradle of coaches. Now, I think their current football coach requires a serious look by whoever the new AD is going to be there. And I think that anybody who's got 2 national championships and a third trip to the national championship is worthy of consideration. In his longest head coaching stint, he had a winning record of 74-7. That's 95% if you do the math. He won, championships in 2005, 2006, was a runner-up in 2009, and he also comes from an interesting coaching tree. I'm talking about Chuck Martin, who is the coach of Miami of Ohio right now. I mean, Chuck was the right-hand man to Kelly over at Notre Dame, and he was there when Notre Dame went their 13-0 season. And I just really think that as Michigan took a chance on a guy out of Miami of Ohio named Glenn, they need to look at Chuck and give him serious consideration. He's won everywhere he's gone. He's a fierce recruiter. And when you're recruiting D2 guys, let's face it, maybe you're looking at a Joik Bell. Maybe you're looking at a Rob Rubik. And we can name drop other people throughout it. But that idea there of that's a guy who knows how to sell his program. And again, he's got an 80% winning percentage in college football. Yeah, this past year hasn't been too glorious at Miami. But you know what? He's got the experience. He's got the knowledge. He knows how to recruit. And I will tell you, Chuck Martin, I sincerely believe, should be the next head football coach in Ann Arbor.
And for those out there that are in love with Jim Harbaugh, some thoughts that people have been mentioning that may be true is he just may be using the University of Michigan as leverage to get a better paying job. And I truly think there's a job that's stamped for him, and that's for the Chicago Bears. I think it's perfect. He can go in there, turn things around on their offense. He can help their defense. And with the Chicago Bears, their head coach should be shown the door based on their lack of consistent performance. And I think Jim Harbaugh is using Michigan as leverage. Or if he does take the job, he may only stay 2 or 3 years. So we'll keep Chuck Martin on our list. Hopefully, Michigan finds the right head coach, because right now Michigan is at an all-time low, and they're likely to miss a bowl game yet again this year.
It interesting to look at it, and because I'm a little bit older than you, I look at it the last 50 years. It is unique in my lifetime to really see the two Big Ten programs, and we're fortunate living in the state of Michigan. We have two top-tier universities in terms of athletics, academics, and research. What happens is I was looking at the previous coaches. I would go back as far as Duffy Doherty, even though Biggie Monroe was before him. But if you look, Doherty, great coach. Saban, great coach. D'Antonio, great coach. But if you look, historically, Frank Waters, Darryl Rogers, Denny Stoltz, Bobby Williams, John L. Smith. That kind of coaching lineage, 1 out of 4, that's 25%. And I just wonder if D'Antonio, even though he's one of the highest paid people in his profession, he's still always going to be a number 2 behind Izzo. Is there going to be like an SEC or an ACC school who's going to back up the truck and say, oh, we'll match the money, but you can be the man on our campus? That's the thing that Spartan fans have to be concerned about, is as long as he's in East Lansing and people feel Izzo can walk on the red cedar at any point, whether it's frozen over or not, he's got to sit there and say, where can I be the man? Where do I want to be? So that's the interesting part, looking at the coaching here in the state of Michigan.
Now, the Detroit Lions right now are causing the fans to be a little bit worried, just based on the fact that we had a 7-2 start. We were the talk of the league, number 1 defense. We were winning games late, and everything was all good. And then the true tests came about the last 2 weeks on the road versus Arizona and on the road versus New England, both losses. How concerned should we be right now, Dean, that the Lions have struggled the last 2 weeks?
Very concerned. It seems as if this team needs a GPS unit to point towards the end zone. If you look at that Arizona game, 2 field goals, same old lines, classic, we get down there, we get close. If they had converted those into touchdowns, 14-14, it would have been a very different game. Now, this past week against New England, when Brady is on, he is on. There is nobody finer. Obviously, he's rated always a top 5 quarterback. Who do you say in the breath to do the Super Bowl every year? New England's always there. Brady and the hoodie have always been in the top tier of the league, and there's no reason to doubt that right now. But I think that the concern I have is that I think in some respects the Lions are overachieving. I look back to the beginning and say, if we remember this coaching search, who did everybody want? Everybody, and I'm probably guilty of it, wanted who? Ken Whisenhunt. Now, if you look at Tennessee, they're in a 2-9 skid right now. They've lost 9 out of 10. They're in the bottom 5 with the Jets, the Jaguars, the Raiders, and the Buccaneers. And actually, Whisenhunt now is 3-20 as a head coach, dating back to his final 12 games against Arizona. This was not going to be our savior. I think that just the opposite. I think the Lions have overachieved because oftentimes bringing in a guy and bringing in his systems, I'm stupefied. What's the old line about offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships? And except for this last week's performance, their defense has been pretty locked down, pretty tight on it. And I'll tell you, I really think that the Lions have upside potential, but at 7-3, it would have been reasonable to think, okay, if you look at it mathematically, where would they be? 11-5 at the end of the year? They have 4 very winnable games, 2 against Chicago. They've got a Minnesota team, and then Tampa Bay, who just, these are teams that they should sleepwalk through and be able to win just on pure talent alone. But again, for a first-year coach, I would say that the Lions look very good. But he came in under the win now mantra. Win now. You look at they have to even ask their questions. Who's going to be the number 1 receiver there? Is it going to be Calvin? Well, he's got a contract spike there. So looking at Golden Tate, my God, even in the loss this past week, Tate looked incredible. Tate is quickly emerging as the number 1 receiver on that team. And Calvin, again, as he ages, the body's wearing down. He's got to ask himself, does he want to finish in Detroit, or does he want to be paid like a number 1? Because if he's going to get paid like a number 1, it's not going to be in Detroit in this salary cap league. So he's got to make some choices where he wants to end his career.
Now, on Tuesday, Calvin made a little bit of news in that he was asked by reporters, your catches are down with Matthew Stafford, and he said, why don't you go ask Matthew that? And so it was kind of perceived that, he was slightly dissing Matthew Stafford because he has been targeting other receivers. I think that based on observations is that Calvin Johnson is possibly on the downside of his career. I mean, since the middle of last season, his numbers are way down, and J.J. Watt, a defensive end, has more touchdowns than Calvin. And that is quite, that is quite the interesting note there, in that Calvin Johnson is not the same guy that we've seen before in the past.
Calvin's been Teflon coated. He's been lucky that he's really never been the brunt of criticism. He's been the good citizen, and so everybody loves a winner. And what has happened? Now that there's a little heat under him, is he a little thin-skinned about it? I think he's got to say, as the lines go, so goes Calvin Johnson. And he's got to step up and say, you know what? I am a leader on this team. I'm recognized as one of the best in my position here in the NFL. What do I need to do? I need to make sure the only stats that count are wins and losses. So I need to do everything in my power. Even Dan Miller on the radio broadcast this past week talked about catchable balls. You need to catch that ball. Floria needed to catch that ball. Golden Tate needed to catch that ball. Ebron needed to catch that ball. You basically have to find the handle and make those receptions. And who better than somebody considered one of the top in the league in the case of Calvin Johnson? He needs to lead by example. He needs to catch anything that's in the same zip code as he.
I agree. Most of us do believe the Lions have a strong chance to play well on Thanksgiving and to handle the Chicago Bears just based on their offensive and defensive struggles. And it's interesting in that a lot of people were saying, if we traded Jay Cutler for Matthew Stafford, what would happen? And they're so similar in that they both are gunslingers. They both have the ability to make all the throws. It's just right now they're not finding consistent success. What's your opinion on this game on Thanksgiving, and do the Lions walk away with their 8th victory?
I think that you have to go with the Lions as a favorite. Just even this little bit of turmoil they're in, they still look like they have it more together. Chicago has been inconsistent. Cutler has just never been the leader. I remember when, again, he was the hot free agent. Everybody wanted to sign him, and everybody wanted to sign him. Well, he's definitely cashed the check, but he hasn't delivered the results. I don't even know if the third coach bringing in somebody new is the answer on Cutler. I mean, he did have his, obviously he played well, and then he was the high free agent. But I just don't think Cutler is the kind of guy who really has the stripes to lead a team to victory. I think Stafford needs to be more like a Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Flacco is a middle manager. He effectively manages the game. He makes the throws when he has to. He does what he needs to. And so I think in the case of Stafford, he needs to take that page out of that book and say, my job is to put my team in position to win. I have the weapons, I have the talent, I have a pretty awesome defense. Just manage the game and manage the game effectively.
This will air on Thanksgiving Day. Let's reminisce a little bit. And the funny thing is, when we were chatting, you were like, I got some Thanksgiving memories, John, but they're not all positive. Let's reminisce.
No. I mean, the joke growing up in my house was that we stuffed our Thanksgiving turkey with Maalox just in case the Lions played the way they did. I mean, I was looking over my top 5 list. I have a top 5 list here. When I was 15, which is back in 1976, this guy named Orenthal James Simpson set the NFL record for most rushing yards in a single game on Thanksgiving Day. But the Bills just, they had their backup quarterback in, Gary Moranti, and he only completed 4 of 29. So, you talk about a tale of two cities. I mean, that was a real up and down. 1980, 19 years old. The Lions, first time a Thanksgiving game ever went to overtime, 17-17, and I remember listening on the radio, and then suddenly Dave Williams breaks the opening kickoff in overtime, 95 yards for a game-winning touchdown. You would have thought the city was, was going to jump into the river that day. That was the shortest overtime in NFL history at the time. And then 1986, what is it about the Lions? They are instant highlight reels for other people. I remember that day, Walter Stanley. He had the biggest game of his career. I mean, he blew it up. He had 207 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, an 83-yard punt return for Green Bay, and they, 44-40, they handed Lions their loss. And other than that, I mean, his career was pretty pedestrian from there. Of course, one of my favorite victories was a great controversial game back in 1998, what they call the Luckett Bowl. I mean, Lions and the Steelers went to overtime. Jerome Bettis tried to call the coin toss in the air, and good old referee Phil Luckett, who I don't know, he should be unluckett myself. He misheard the call. He awarded Detroit the ball, and we went down and scored and won 1916. But it resulted in a rule change. I mean, same old Lions. We win on an interesting thing that results in a rule change. And, of course, back in 2008, when the Titans roared us in one of the biggest losses ever, Thanksgiving Day, 47-10 as part of that 0-16 season. I mean, it is one of those cases where up and down, and you look at it and you say to yourself, here is the national spotlight. We are the only game on at that time, and most recently it was Family Guy who sat there and said one of the characters was literally in a den of lions, and he said, shouldn't you be losing to somebody on Thanksgiving Day? We are known for this, and yet at the same time, this is our chance to be in the national spotlight. It's interesting that the game will be on CBS this year because usually one of the two, when there was only 2 Thanksgiving Day games on, one of the teams had to play an AFC game so CBS could run the broadcast. But now with 3 games and NBC doing the game at night, you're going to see actually 2 NFC games on CBS, which is a rare occurrence. But I still think the Lions have enough of what it takes, even though for the Bears, this is their playoffs. This is their Super Bowl. This is their big game this year. There's no reason to doubt the Lions. They're at home. They've played well at home this year, and I predict the Lions. I'm going to probably say about 24-13 Lions.
Lions score 24 points. That would be excellent. We definitely need to see some offense and definitely need to get back on the winning track. Dean Ladouceur has been kind enough to join us, host of the On the Dean's List podcast. Tell our listeners where they can find you and where they can listen to On the Dean's List.
Right now, you can find us on Blog Talk Radio at blogtalkradio.com on the Dean's List. Stealing a great idea from some of the better podcasters in town. So we're going to be self-hosting after the first of the year on the deanslistradio.com. You can also, my Twitter feed is on the Dean's List, or you can find me there. I'm there on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm easy to spot. And when I'm not podcasting, I'm a marketing coach, a writing coach. My wife and I own an artisanal publishing company, so I love to talk sports. I also love to talk success principles and just welcome people who want to have a good conversation. Look for me there. Listen in. We always have great guests. We're more of an eclectic podcast. We have a little bit of everything. Yes, we've had athletes and sports broadcasters, but we've also had experts in the field, authors, commentators. For guys who are into social media, we've got Peter Shankman coming up here on December 16th, and he's a pretty big deal on that. We've also had a lot of national guests on lately. So feel free to just look up On the Dean's List Radio, and I'm sure you'll be able to find us, and I'd love to share with some of your guys' vast audience.
We greatly appreciate your time. We hope to do this again. The Sports Dean of the Detroit Sports Podcast. We greatly appreciate your time, Dean. Let's chat again, and I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
All the best to both of you, gentlemen. Thank you.
That was a great chat with Dean. We appreciate all friends of the podcast. He had us on his podcast, On the Dean's List, which comes out every Wednesday. He's got a lot of great guests. It's a great podcast to listen to. On the Dean's List comes out every Wednesday. We want to thank Dean for joining us on the Detroit Sports Podcast. Let's keep the train moving. Let's talk to one of the writers from the Detroit Sports Nation. We always enjoy our chats with them. We're going to talk Red Wings, get a little bit more information, insight into the Detroit Red Wings and their current state of play. Nate Webb from the Detroit Sports Nation will join us next after the break. Stay tuned. Switching gears, we're talking Red Wings on the Detroit Sports Podcast. Who better to break down the Red Wings' recent play than one of the featured writers for the Red Wings on the Detroit Sports Nation, Nate Webb. What's going on, my friend? How's it going?
I'm pretty good. How you guys doing?
Oh, it's a great night. As we speak, the Red Wings are crushing Philly 3-1. Stephen Weiss has made a great return. Pavel Datsyuk lit the lamp, continuing his success versus Philly. Just talk about what you've observed in the last couple weeks with the Red Wings and their good play.
They're faster than they were to start out the season, which is an asset that they knew they were going to have going down the line, having all the kids playing up full time this year. And the games where they drag their feet a lot, they don't do very well, especially early in the game. They have a hard time finding their legs early, but once they do and they start moving, they do really well.
Obviously, with the addition of Stephen Weiss, who scored 3 goals in his first 2 games back, talk about him. What does he bring to the team, and can he continue this scoring success?
He's really good in front of the net. He gets the dirty goals that the Wings have been looking for the past couple seasons. He was pretty much a perennial 20-goal scorer in Florida. I think he capped out at 28 one season. So if they can keep him scoring, he makes them really deep, especially down center. And his first game back, he played wing, which I guess it was the first game he played wing in his career. And I mean, scoring 2 goals, you can't really argue with that. But as long as he stays healthy, he makes them really, really deep down the middle.
Yeah, and what's hopeful for us fans is that he can be another guy that can consistently put the puck in the net going forward. And with the addition of Stephen Weiss on this roster, it made way for Ken Holland to be able to kind of make a decision on Andrej Nestrasil in terms of putting him on waivers, taking a chance. But unfortunately, the Carolina Hurricanes claimed him, and he's no longer on our roster. Adam and I kind of had a debate a little bit. We spoke about, whether he was a valuable piece that should have been let go. I was of the opinion that, we have so many forwards in Grand Rapids that he was just a victim of the numbers game. What was your thought when you heard that Nestrasil had been claimed off of waivers?
I mean, that always sucks to lose a prospect, especially when you're not getting anything in return for him. Nestrasil, he's a great person. He's a really nice guy. But I don't think he would have contributed to the team as much as people are thinking he would have. He probably would have ended up 4th, possibly 3rd line, 10, maybe 15 goal scorer per year, probably like a Drew Miller type role. He was responsible defensively, and that was probably his best asset. Like I said, you never want to lose a prospect like that, but I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I agree. That was the stance I took, and you know what? There's so many forwards in Grand Rapids, especially with, Anthony Mantha, who's playing pretty well. He's likely to see some time this season in the NHL. You could afford to let him go. They didn't want to, but you could afford to let him go. And even when he was here, he was a -3 player. He only had 2 assists, but Adam was all wowed by the fact that he scored his first game there, and he was a 3rd-round pick, and he's got size. So I just don't want, we never want to let go of a player for nothing who turns around and bites us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Going forward, how do you see the Red Wings shaping up now, the rest of the month going into December? How's their schedule shape up, and do you see success going forward?
I mean, they've been pretty consistent as of late. As long as they can keep doing that, I think they'll be all right. October was one of the hardest stretches of our schedule. I mean, they came out of that 6-2-2, which is great, compared to what people were saying heading into the season. But we play until Christmas. We play a total of, I think, 4 games on the road, something like that. And they've been really, really good at home lately. I think 7-2-2 is their record at home right now, which is 3rd best in the league. So if they can keep consistent at home, they should be just fine heading into the All-Star break.
We always keep an eye on things going on in Grand Rapids, obviously with Anthony Mantha, who has made his debut who's playing in the minors after he broke his leg. He's played pretty well. Besides Anthony Mantha, is there anybody else in the minors that we should be looking at in terms of a potential player that could be called up?
As far as immediate call-ups, Marchenko and Sprawl in defense are both right on the cusp of being NHL ready. Marchenko, I think both of them are right-handed shots. I know at least Marchenko is. So you can keep an eye on both of them. They'll probably get their chance later on in the season. As far as forwards go, Mantha's obviously in the top, but Pulkkinen will probably get a good look eventually too. I think he's played a handful of games with us, though I don't think he's scored yet. But he's got a good shot on him too, and he puts up good numbers for Grand Rapids as well.
Nate Webb from the Detroit Sports Nation is joining us, talking Wings. Are there any storylines we should be paying attention to going forward? I mean, right now, things are going well. One of the things that we keep noticing when we get to the shootout, we're not having success there, but we are getting points in the majority of games. We are playing well. Alfredson retired. That's a loss because he was a scoring threat. But any storylines that you're paying attention to right now with the Wings?
As far as the Wings go, not particularly. I've been keeping up on a couple of the prospects. Tyler Bertuzzi has been tearing up the OHL this season so far, and I'm excited to see him once he gets up to Grand Rapids to see what he can do for them. He's been compared to like an Andrew Shaw type player where he's really nasty on the ice, but he can also put the puck in the net, at least at the minor level. I don't know how he's going to do when he gets up to pro.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about Bertuzzi. What are his strengths, and what kind of skills does he bring to the table?
I mean, he's not a full-fledged goal scorer, but he plays with grit like Callahan does in Grand Rapids. He gets under other players' skin. He's able to, he puts them off their game. And if we could get him and Callahan up at the same time, they would be a really good combo to play on the third or fourth line together, especially if they can contribute even somewhat decently offensively.
All right, Nate, thanks for your time. We always enjoy chatting with the writers from the Detroit Sports Nation. Keep up the good work over there, and let's hope for continued success for these Red Wings.
All right, thank you.
Check out the writers at the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. Check them out on Facebook. They have a great reach here in Detroit, and they have a lot of great insight and information regarding all things Detroit sports. Because last week, in one of the rare epic performances by Doc, I picked every game right, and I've extended my lead significantly over you. You are trailing by a lot. Let's see what the score is at right now.
I just need one good week. One good week, and you just self-destruct.
Right now, Doc is leading 34-29 after the clean sweep from the Doc last week, including correctly analyzing that New England would rock our Lions. Unfortunately, I was, sad to be right because the Lions didn't play good, but got me that 2 points, helped me extend my lead, and as we sit, I'm winning 34-29, and just like your Wolverines, you're going down.
I'm missing the playoffs.
Isn't it funny we haven't even said that Michigan plays Ohio State this week? Let's just
That's just how far that Michigan team has fallen. They don't even come up on our radar anymore. They're like an afterthought.
Yeah. With my first pick, I am going to continue to take the team with the hot hand. I like the Dallas Cowboys at home over the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that when you lose a starting quarterback, it's just really tough to maintain momentum. And Philadelphia, while they have a great team, I don't think on Thanksgiving they're going to have any magic, and the Cowboys are going to display an offensive performance like we haven't seen. So I'm expecting the Cowboys to win in a rout over the Eagles.
I have no idea what's going on with Tennessee this year. I don't think they know what's going on with Tennessee this year. So I'm going to take J.J. Watt and his Houston Texans to steamroll the Tennessee Titans.
With my second pick, a team that came into Detroit, played on Monday night, and just thoroughly dominated on offense, the Buffalo Bills. I think at home, again this week, they're going to continue to play well. I think Brian Hoyer is a serviceable quarterback. I just don't think that he's going to play all that well on the road versus a Buffalo team whose defense is outstanding. And the team is going to be looking to continue their strong play on defense. So with my second pick, I got the Buffalo Bills taking down the Cleveland Browns.
That's funny. I have that same game picked as my number 2 game, but I'm going the opposite way. I think Cleveland is trying. They just figured out ways to win. That's all they do. They just figured out ways to win. And they've got my boy Josh Gordon back. So now that offense is that much more lethal. Oh yeah. Cleveland Browns take down the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo.
My third game, I have to consider what's been going on lately. I really believe that the Giants are going to have some momentum, and the Jaguars are just not that strong of a team. Blake Bortles turns the ball over way too much, and he struggled so far in his rookie season. So with my third pick, I like the team that is featuring Odell Beckham Jr. on the road, so I got the Giants -2 over Jacksonville.
All right, I am going with the Carolina Panthers +3, coming off of a bye to beat up on Teddy Bridgewater and those Minnesota Vikings.
All right, we're at the Lions game, and the Lions...
Shoot, this is for all the marbles, buddy.
This is tough.
This is the
tough.
big one right here.
Okay.
This one. You know what? I really feel like their season hinges on this game. This is the make or break game right here.
This is a make or break game. And right now, the line opened up at 7. And can the Lions be victorious over the Bears? The Bears are getting 7 points. The Lions are struggling on offense. I think this game is close. I think it stays close the entire way, so I'm going to take the points in this game, but I got Detroit winning 17-13.
Ooh. All right.
So I'm taking Chicago plus 7.
Plus 7. Mm-hmm. That's cool. I'm so confident in our Detroit Lions, and I have such little respect for Jay Cutler, my fantasy quarterback, who's going to probably lead me to a championship. Yeah, I'm calling my shot right now. I'm so confident in our Detroit Lions, and I hate Jay Cutler so much, I'm going to take the Lions laying 7 over Chicago this Thanksgiving. Let's go Turkey Day!
I hope you're right. You make this competition a little bit closer. You get that bonus 2 points, and here we go. Cause it's the home stretch for the Lions. Can they get to the playoffs? The next couple podcasts are going to be interesting to see. We want to thank Dean.
If I crap the bed this time around, I'm just going to go with it, whatever you pick next from now on. Just keep it close. It doesn't even matter. Trying to change it up here.
We want to thank the guests who join us on our podcast every week. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank those that download this podcast and subscribe to it on iTunes. We can't thank you enough for those that retweet our comments, that follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Those of you that are involved and active in our and message us, we greatly appreciate it. Feel free, join in on the conversation anytime. Doc and Jock are one of the most interactive sports Twitter pages in the area. And we're thankful for everybody that interacts with us.
Dude, even if we don't like you, we'll still talk to you. It's all good.
It's all good.
Just hit us up on the Twitter machine. It's all good.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. This has been another episode of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Stay tuned. Great things ahead. See you all next week.
Go Lions. Jail sex those Bears.
And one other thank you I should give to the thousands of players that we've been able to touch. Go Blue. We understand what Michigan football means and what Michigan football is. We will always be about the team at Michigan. This is never going to be about Brady Hoke. This is about a football program. This is about a team and 42 Big Ten championships. And that's what this program is going to be about. And the things that we believe in the foundation is going to be our character. The character of the guys on the staff, the character of the kids in the program, and everybody who touches those kids on a daily basis.
Homie, don't play that.
Go Blue. Because character wins in life, and character wins on the football field. The character teams are the ones who play together, the ones who stay together, the ones who are accountable to each other. And we're going to be a program that is going to be accountable. We're going to have a foundation of toughness. Because I don't care what position you play, this is a tough man's game. Doesn't matter if you're the holder on the field goal. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be physically tough. Because that's the way a game of football is played. And that will be part of the philosophy. We are going to be a team that competes with a high degree of effort every time we take the field. When we run out on the practice field, we're going to compete. And we're going to compete every day because you get better when you compete. And that's what we're going to do as a football team. Accountability and respect. We're going to respect every guy in this program. We're going to respect every person on this campus. We're going to respect everybody in the community. And we're going to respect the tradition of the University of Michigan and its football program. Brady Hoke touches those kids on a daily basis. Go Blue.